Hello, everybody. Hey, what's up? This is the GT crew here at Gamescom 2012 in Cologne. I'm Daniel Kaiser, not a regular here on Invisible Walls, a very special edition of Invisible Walls. But then again, we're not always in Germany, so I guess there's a first time for everything. And we've been in Germany before, but first time for Invisible Walls here in Germany. So how do you say hello?
Hello.
Hello. There you go. So we're going to go around the horn and give our impressions, our thoughts on the big show. Obviously, we have Chris for the new win down there, who was working with us during Gamescom, getting some footage from the floor and doing some first takes and some interviews and some gameplay demos and whatnot. Here is Ian Think Hink. He's been editing a lot of the videos here on the floor at Gamescom, getting them to you first. Daniel B to the Bloodworth. Of course, you know him. He needs no introduction. And Rich, What Can Brown Do For You, is sitting right next to me here on the left. Obviously, he was doing a lot of the floor coverage as well. I'm Daniel Kaiser. Welcome to Invisible Walls. Guys, we're going to dive right in. And DB, I want to start with you talking about your appointment, some of the big things from Gamescom. Obviously, there was a lot here. There was a lot that wasn't here as well. But what were some of the more impressive things that you saw, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of great things. You guys might have seen my first take on SimCity by now. Go into a lot of depth on that. I got to, this is the first place that we've been able to play SimCity. And I had a little time at the end of Friday, and I got in like the very last appointment. So that was cool to be able to do that. I got to play a little bit of Dishonored, but unfortunately, due to situations, I didn't get very far into the demo.
Right.
So unfortunately, I didn't get to talk more on that.
You're saying you were kind of dumped into that one, right? I mean, it was kind of hard to pick up because you didn't have a frame of reference for how to get into the game, right?
It was partly that, and it was partly because, I was on some kind of bad PS3 debugs that, like, every time, like, I would die, like, they would just get stuck in the loading cycle, so I'd have to keep restarting the demo over and over again. And it was and to be fair, it was, like, the first demo of the show, so
Right.
they didn't have time to work out any bugs or anything like that.
Not to Dishonored, but it wasn't quite so.
Yeah, I mean, there were other developers that are having problems with old PS3 debugs, too. I think
Right.
it's just kind of a hardware thing. I got to play a little bit of God of War. It's the same demo from E3, but they tweaked it a little bit, and they've
Right.
added some things so that you could kind of get a better judge of that whole time decay mechanic. It kind of looks like it's some out of Singularity, to where you can, they have something get destroyed, and then you can kind of rewind it to like be half destroyed, and then climb on it, and then fully back, and then finish the climb and stuff like that. Is interesting to play around with that. I think one of the things that I really like about Gamescom, though, is because a lot of these other big announcements and stuff and the AAA games, so much focus is put on them at E3 that we see like a whole nother side of games.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many like free to play or like massively multiplayer FPS games this week. It's like it's crazy. Like I've seen Firefall and Dust 514 and PlanetSide 2 and Warface, and it's hard because it's like part of my brain wants to just like start tying them all together, even though they all have very different focuses.
Sure. Well, and that's kind of reflective of the state of the industry right now. A lot of the everything going towards that. But yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, those...
but at the same time, though, like I'm saying, it's like those aren't games that we would have seen much of at E3, and they were really big presences here. Like Firefall had a giant booth with a lot of people in line. Getting in there to compete on PC stations, and that's another thing I think is different. Is like you actually see real PC stations here.
Lots of focus on PC here in Germany.
So that was very cool. I got to do some stuff on Tearaway with the Media Molecule guys.
Yeah, that seemed pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to play it, or did you?
I didn't get to play it. I think they did have some demos that they were like live demos they were walking people through, but I just did some interviews with them and found out a little bit more about the game and this crazy idea of like you're delivering a message, and that's the whole idea, and the message is going to be tailored to you. Let me see what else I saw.
It's all about the paper.
It's all about the paper. Yeah. It really is. I got to talk to Sworn Spectre, which is always cool, because you can always, like with him, it's great because you can just like ask him anything. Like you don't have to ask him about the game.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And sometimes the most interesting stuff is not asking him
Yeah,
about
totally.
the game.
He's great.
For you being here, like what is your kind of take on the show itself?
The show itself was great. I mean, it's really awesome to see the level of excitement, for Gamescom here in Germany. Tons of people here, and just thinking back on it now, as five guys in a hotel room usually do, not awkward at all. I think that it's a great sign to see how big this convention is getting. But it's also, I think I'll get into the games that I saw specifically in just a minute, but just a couple of key takeaways for me was the lack of stuff from the likes of Microsoft and Nintendo. Nintendo's getting ready to launch this gigantic console, and I had a couple of European game journalists come up to me and be like, hey, it's really cool that all these games are here, but Nintendo, what are we supposed to make of this? I mean, Nintendo is obviously pushing this new hardware, and they want us to buy in to the fact that lightning can strike twice with the motion controls that were on the Wii, and yet they're not putting it in very many people's hands. Now, of course, we did see it behind closed doors at a couple of things. I did get to do the ZombiU demo, and they were showing very interesting usage of the controller in tandem with the game itself. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something that really was a huge selling point for like, you need to have this in order to complete this experience. And I think that here at Gamescom, in order to sell the German, not just the German, the European audience on the fact that the Wii U is something you need, not necessarily something that you just want, they needed to be here, and they weren't. So that was kind of a bummer. I'll talk about some more of the games. Did you have some other games that you wanted to talk to? Because I was going to toss over to Rich and see what he had to say.
Yeah, let's move on to Rich.
All right, so Rich, you obviously were on the floor. You were walking around, and when the booth babes weren't stopping you, asking you to do countdowns, what was some of the most impressive things that you saw here at Gamescom?
Honestly, I got to start with the ESL booth, the esports. Crowds were going ballistic. I mean, if there's one thing that Europe supports, it's the PC and all the esports with League of Legends, StarCraft, like anything Blizzard. I mean, it was outrageous. The crowds are incredible, but yet it was awesome.
Yeah, and that ties back in, on the beginning of the show, Call of Duty revealed their whole esports thing. We saw Firefall has the same kind of functionality being built into it. It's really interesting to see like a lot of people are really starting to move towards being able to do it yourself esports.
Exactly. And I mean, speaking of Firefall, like at E3, I'm going to say that they only had that little outside presence, where here they had the full-on booth, and I mean it was just everybody can play upstairs. It's like we're ready to go. Here's our new content. But I mean they had a major presence here versus what they had at E3, and that speaks volumes to. It's just like, what, here we are at E3, we're outside, we're on the corner. Here we are at Gamescom. We are here. Not just we're here, but we're here.
And they just did a major overhaul of the game. Took all kinds of community feedback and changed the leveling system completely. Yeah. Huge differences.
And the community appreciates, their whole following appreciates the fact that they listened. They listened, and when they made the overhaul, it was like, okay, here's what our players are saying. Hey, I have an idea. Let's implement some of this stuff that they're saying. Let's see if we can do that. And I mean, even from what Chris has said this week, he said, actually, I think it was before we came out when we were talking about Firefall, and you were like, they did this overhaul, they changed things up, and they listened to their players. And him saying that, and then when I saw the demo with you, it was their Red 5. My hat's off to him.
What about the big games that were on the floor? Because you were going around getting coverage of games that we wanted to see here at Gamescom. There were a lot of big titles you didn't necessarily have access to. A lot of them to get gameplay footage, but from what you did see, what was the most impressive?
Oh my gosh, there were so many, yet so few.
So many, so few. that means nothing to you. That means nothing to you.
Well, here's the deal. I mean. You know what? I saw the Borderlands booth, and I saw the line around the Borderlands 2 booth, the 2K booth for Borderlands 2. Amazing line, but because I had a camera, I couldn't get in. I saw the Activision booth with Call of Duty. The line was immense, but again, I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
You got to shoot some Unfinished Swan, though, which people haven't really seen much of the actual gameplay itself.
Yeah, but they now, anybody watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but
you're wrong.
In the Sony booth, I only saw Unfinished Swan on 2 screens. Now that doesn't mean that it wasn't on more, but when I was going around and I saw Unfinished Swan, it was only on 2 screens. And then again, also being on press day, that gave me access to it before the crowds came in. So it was I had easy access to it versus having to fight through a crowd and get to it. So if did they change it up? Was it on more screens and I just didn't see it? I don't know.
I don't think it would have been on more screens. I mean, it had a lot to show there.
Right, but yeah, Unfinished Swan was impressive. I mean, I believe it was the same demo, but I was intrigued because it's really awesome. Just like you all you have is this white space, and you have paint, and then it's like, okay, wait, That looks like a wall. Wait, there's a path here. Oh, there's a tree there. Hey, there's a bridge, and there's a frog. Water. Okay. Oh, I guess I can't splash. Have to turn. Yeah, unfinished.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, unfinished one's really cool.
Did it leave you swanting more?
Oh, Daniel Kaiser, you are the pun-isher.
So what else? Is there anything big before we move on to Chris and to Ian to find out what was the thing? I mean, you're getting on the plane in just a few hours. We're doing this late, by the way, because we freaking love you guys. So what when you get on the plane tomorrow and you start thinking, oh my gosh, that's the takeaway from Germany. What is it for you personally?
Okay. On the show floor, honestly, and I the only thing I can say honestly is the Rayman for the Wii U.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome, and the fact that it was on the Wii U and it was playable, I find the Rayman games fun. They're very enjoyable, and I love how colorful they are. I love the Rayman games for that reason.
Yeah, I think for not to cut you off, but I think for gamers of our age, who grew up playing the 8-bit and 16-bit eras, the Rayman games, this new game in particular, seems kind of like the fulfillment of what we wanted when we were younger, like that 16-bit side-scrolling type of thing. I mean, the Rayman game Origins was awesome. Yeah. So it looks, they're really onto something. It looks really cool.
Yeah, Origins was incredible. And then behind closed doors, I honestly have to say, even though I am not a first-person shooter player, PlanetSide 2. Watching that demo, I wanted to play.
The exclusive demo that we have on GameTrailers.com.
Yes, that one.
GT exclusive. Nice. Yeah, it was awesome, and I wanted to play it, and I can't play first-person shooters.
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's good to know. Ian, you were editing a lot in the Bay, and so you got to see a lot come in, and you did, a lot of work for us. So you got to see a lot of this stuff. What did you think looked the most impressive from your perspective as somebody who I think your perspective is valuable because it's like that of a viewer. You weren't on the floor a lot of times. We get in there and we actually get our hands on stuff or get these presentations and it's all set up. You're seeing what they're seeing, but you're seeing it first and you're helping to create it. What do you think came across as the most impressive visually and also just presentation wise here at Gamescom?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing about being an editor. I see everything, but I see nothing, I see only what the end product is, so I kind of get a less biased maybe view because I don't have a guy trying to sell it to me. I just see the gameplay. But like Rich said, PlanetSide 2, like I play, I'll play an FPS here. Like I'm stoked about BioShock and stuff like that. But like I don't really typically play like the competitive FPSs or anything like that. But PlanetSide 2 looks ridiculous. Like the scale of that game and like all the stuff going on and the fact that it's all actual players, like there are lasers shooting off of stuff and planes and vehicles going all over the place and they're all legitimate, like people doing that. Weird, hopefully I'm not stealing yours because I know you like this game, but Chris was excited about a game and I had to watch the entirety of the walkthrough to find
the medieval game,
but the Chivalry, dude, I mean Dark Souls, greatest video game of all time.
You've heard it here
if you didn't know,
and last,
and if you don't like it, you're wrong.
Ryan Stevens will thank you.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, this game looks like a first-person Dark Souls. They called it a first-person slasher, which I appreciate. But it looks cool. I mean, it's indie, so it's probably not going to be like flawless. And I wish there was like a story to it maybe, but it's more just like multiplayer or whatever. But it looks awesome. The combat looks cool.
And that's their big focus is combat. I think their big thing when I spoke with them back at PAX a long time ago was trying to say, a lot of people do this first-person one-on-one combat, but they don't quite nail the visceral nature of what that would be like.
Well, and they're going for realism and like the medieval thing, and like the siege mode looks awesome. Like arena mode, whatever, like fighting another guy, that's fun. Yeah. But I got Dark Souls for that. But like siege mode, like where I can't remember what they said, 16
v16.
Yeah, 16v16. So you got 16 people who are raiding a village, trying to kill all the peasants and burn all the buildings, and then 16 of you trying to stop them from doing that. I don't know if there's a time limit or how they determine when it ends, but like. That looks like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then Unfinished Swan,
You're
that's
sick.
right
You're
up
sick.
my alley.
If that's fun, you're sick.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
That's true. I am sick.
Fun.
But I mean, like, for me, it's like Dark Souls and indie games. So, like, Unfinished Swan, I'm excited about that. And I'm sure there are a couple other ones, but I'll remember.
It all blends together.
It all
at this
blends
point.
together.
You'll
I mean,
have
they're all. I'm like, here, a bunch of video games, a bunch of people talking about video games.
Yeah.
I like them, but
it was great, and we had a lot of great footage. But Chris, I know that you did a ton of coverage yourself out there on the floor. You got the chance to play some things, but also do some sit in on some presentations and then just shoot some stuff. So you kind of have an all around perspective. What's your takeaway?
Well, You think Ian's sick. I mean, the biggest thing that I'm excited about from Gamescom would be Hitman Contracts mode.
Yeah.
So going around and kind of establishing hits for people to kind of play, kind of like a game of Hitman Horse. You know, you kind of establish, I'm going to kill these people in a certain way, try to copy me or try to better me.
Yep.
Adding, you know, a lot of replayability to a game that already had a lot of replayability, you know, like Hitman Blood Money. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I beat that game experimenting with, oh, I can kill him with a piano dropping on, piano dropping on him. I can kill him by poisoning cake. I can do this, that. Spending hours playing.
Yeah. Don't
over
ever
and
touch
over.
my cake. Just saying.
You
my
already
piano.
ate the cake.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die. Go on.
No, but you know, I would replay over and over and over, and now they're adding. So,
Oh no, I didn't want to cut you off.
oh, go for it.
I just.
But you did.
No, but that's why I was quiet. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
But you did the give me the mic thing. That's the give me the mic. I got something to say.
Cut you off.
okay,
Stop talking.
okay, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm gonna let you finish, but no, but the contracts mode walkthrough we did with that's why I pulled out my phone. You guys were like, why the hell is Rich Brown pulling out his phone? You know, they're recording. That's unprofessional. I had to look up the guy's name because I didn't want to get it wrong. His name is Torben Eilert or Eilert.
Yeah.
He is the guy that actually did. You know, he handled he basically did the rules programming and stuff for contracts mode. He did an unbelievable walkthrough for contracts mode. Check that out on Game Trailers. Just the guy was completely thorough, and it was amazing. Like I like Hitman, but I'm not a Hitman fan, or should I say, I was not a Hitman fan until I'm see.
You gotta check his email again.
No, actually, it's my text messages because when we did the
They don't need it.
Okay. Anyways, when Torben when Torben agreed to do the walkthrough, when he did the walkthrough, I was amazed at how thorough it was. And again, the guy he said he did the rules and he did all kinds of work on contracts mode. Watch that walkthrough. It is amazing and very, very informative.
Tell us how you really feel. So I think the real thing, though, is and to get back to your point, you're a big fan.
Huge
And
fan.
we were in on the presentation, had a chance, they did it in a big theater, which was actually a really cool thing when they first announced it. But one of the things they wanted to stress with that mode contracts was really about appealing to the fans and really saying, they opened the whole presentation by saying, we crossed the milestone. They have 1 million fans on Facebook. And they felt like, you know, this sense of community around that game is building. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy, twisted game, but I think for the people who appreciate it for what it's worth, it's about being able to outthink the game or to come up with unique, different ways of both, completing assassinations and also just conceiving them mentally what you would be able to do. And this mode definitely allows fans to fulfill that fantasy of who is the ultimate assassin in a competitive type nature. So is that what you're most excited about with it or what?
Most definitely.
Nice. Awesome. And did you get a little tie?
No, but I got a little awesome figurine. It's in
Yeah,
my
it is pretty
luggage
cool.
right there.
Are you going to shave your head and get a little bard thing?
No.
No? We could do that.
Could.
Good pictures with the.
Oh yeah, I
Hitman
definitely.
cosplay guy.
We can totally throw those up right now.
They're on our Facebook page. If you want to see some really cool pictures of Chris with the Hitman dude, like getting shot, but not really,
I guess
then
he
it's
wasn't
there.
cosplay, he was official.
He was
Yeah,
official.
he was official. He's
Yeah.
hired by them.
So aside from Hitman, though, what was you saw Ratchet and Clank? You saw some other stuff. What stood out?
Yeah, you got to see some of the new games that they put out, right? The Puppeteer. You said you didn't really know exactly what to make of that.
Hard to say with the Puppeteer. I'm still kind of trying to understand. I mean, I sat in the presentation. I'm still trying to understand how the game mechanics work because it's just such a different game. I just know that it looks very fantastic. The engine that they made for that really, really is a gorgeous engine. But I did get to see also a demonstration of Until Dawn, that move teen horror. It's not a survival game. It's like
It looked really weird when
a
they did the
horror
presentation.
adventure game. They're
It was
heavily
sexy though.
they're heavily inspired by the teen slasher flicks.
I
They
know, it's
specifically said
kinda
like they have
crazy.
no they're wanting to replicate that but in a video game. But one of the concerns that a lot of people during the Q&A at least was this game is going to be they're aiming for a teen rating,
Right.
and with all teen slasher flicks usually there's some sexuality and nudity and a lot of gore, but they just said like they're going to be holding back all the gore. And from the presentation that I saw, all of the sexually charged moments are like perfectly cut away at any sort of
Yeah.
it's perfectly cut, and you don't really ever see anything. At most you see people in their underwear.
It's like making a shooter without the shooting.
It's like a shooter without the shooting.
Is that the game we were comparing to Night Trap?
Yeah.
Kind of. that classic. So you were so your takeaway on that was that you need to be convinced. It seems like it's trying to fulfill a certain mission by gratifying that sense of that teen slasher thing, but yet with a teen rating because they want to reach the largest market, they're going to kind of shoot themselves in the foot and maybe restrict themselves in being able to complete that.
Yeah, who knows about shooting themselves in the foot? But in terms of the gameplay, it really seemed like you're doing a lot of walking and
hold that towards your mouth there. There you go.
you're doing you're walking in the forests. It's all snowy and everything, and you come across puzzles here and there. Like one puzzle was opening a gate, and I mean, I cannot say it's a horror survival game in the least because it's just. They'll get mad for me saying that it seems linear, but it seems linear in my opinion. So
no, that's good. I mean,
it really legitimately does. I mean, you may be able to go left or right and explore some things, but there is definitely like paths that you're on and objects that you interact with. But there really is no sense of like an openness. You're just kind of pushing forward and progressing the plot. And another thing is, it's a move game that's all in first person. But when you reach certain thresholds, it all of a sudden gives you the perspective of whatever is chasing you.
Yeah.
And you're looking at yourself. It goes into a cutscene, and the characters that you're with, they're kind of, discussing, oh, I hear something. But this monster or this thing that's chasing you, the camera goes into the perspective of that. And it just, so I guess that's a throwback to, the horror slasher films. But for a first-person game, that's very jarring.
Yeah.
Do you still control you well?
No, not at all. It's a
just
cutscene. So
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and let me ask you, DB, real fast, and I'll get to some of the games that I saw. But Sony had an opportunity at this Gamescom, in my opinion, due to the lack of presence by Microsoft and Nintendo to really step up their game, knock it out of the park, and really come away with a boost. It was like they kind of got a free play, a free pass to be able to kind of make some big announcements. They're pushing the Vita. They announced new titles. They talked about their library for the holiday season. What they've accomplished is impressive. It doesn't quite feel like enough with the Vita, but with both the Vita and the PS3, do you think that Sony, they closed out their press conference with the Call of Duty trailer for the Vita, which seemed kind of odd. Yeah. But how do you think Sony fared overall here with the opportunity to knock it out of the park? And do you think they fell short, or that they did just that?
I don't feel like they knocked it out of the park, but the thing that was I'm really happy that they focused on bringing some new creative ideas, and whether those ideas are going to be top tier or not, I'm really not worried about as much as the fact that they're continuing to invest in new IP and bring out, games, and some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger, and like Tearaway, they've said that like their mission with that goal was to make their mission with that game is to make a game that is perfectly designed around the Vita. You could not have that game with all of its features on anything else. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I was disappointed with was the Last of Us trailer. Mm-hmm. Because that trailer was like, okay, we took the last few trailers and we set a song to it and we remixed it. Yeah. And they didn't have a new demo. They just had the actors or something there. It felt like they didn't have time to show The Last of Us, but somebody said, well, we have to have it there. Yeah. That was a little disappointing. But, it's still, Sony's booth is probably the largest booth on the floor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty, at least pretty close.
Yeah, it's close.
It's a huge booth. They've got a big presence, and they had a lot of demos that we really had to try to cram as much in as we could. Yeah. So, and contrast that to Microsoft just not showing up.
I don't think they hurt themselves necessarily, but I don't think that they took the step that they could have here at Gamescom in order to win over the hearts and minds of the European audience and say, we are... let's face it, we're all heading into the next generation now. It's about brand awareness. It's about creating IPs and things that people are going to align themselves with to support new hardwares in the next generation. The Vita feels still to me like it's stretching, it's reaching. It's like saying, hey, look at all this that we have. But, when you have a platform like the DS and the 3DS and stuff competing with the IPs that they do, with Mario and everything else, it's just Sony always feels like they're kind of stretching, even though they're bringing Assassin's Creed, they're bringing Call of Duty, they're bringing all these great IPs. It feels like the Vita just isn't quite, capturing people's hearts and minds the way that they hope, right?
Yeah, there's some things that they're doing that are kind of cool, but they're also kind of counterproductive, like the cross-play or cross-buy thing that they talked about. Yeah. It's cool. It's like, okay, if I buy a PS3 game, I can take it with me on my Vita, but it's sort of like, well, my Vita is just an extra screen for my PS3. What does that exactly mean?
Right.
One thing I did like though is their philosophy on the mobile market, and it seems like something that hopefully will continue to be their philosophy moving forward. Is that okay? You buy a game once, and that's tied to your account, to your Sony network account or whatever.
That's good.
And however many devices you get down the road, you still have that license. That's your game. So
That's respecting the consumer, and that gamers go a long way towards appreciating that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because what we've been seeing so far in the past few years is like, okay, here's this remake of this game that I bought 10 years ago. Here's the virtual console version. It's like, oh, now here's the here's the 3DS virtual console version of the same game I bought on the virtual console, and I bought on the Super NES, and I bought on the NES.
Yeah. I've bought this damn thing like 8 times. Can I own it already? Anyway, moving on. Assassin's Creed 3 was a game that I saw a presentation on. They showed off the naval combat specifically and talked about the depth that was there. I didn't quite realize how much depth was into that.
Right. I mean, it looks like a quick little like almost like a turret scene, right?
Right. No, but it's totally not that. I mean, when I spoke with them about what they wanted to do with the naval sequences, they said that it was essential, considering the time period, that they got these into the game because it was such a huge part of the war in which the time period of the game takes place. And so they wanted to do that, but they wanted to do it in an Assassin's Creed way. I said, okay, that sounds great on a sheet of paper. Well, what the hell does it mean in real life? Once you get onto the ship, you have the ability to upgrade your ship. You have all different types of ammo. You have the ability to really, kind of customize your experience on the ship. But then you jump off of the ship. And in true Assassin's Creed manner, you have the ability to kind of overtake another ship that's next to you and then go into full combat mode. It was there that I saw on display some of the pet peeves that I have with the Assassin's Creed franchise, like the hand-to-hand combat and just the guy jumps onto Connor jumps onto the ship, and it was like people just stood around like waiting to die. And I'm like, there's literally like 5 of them standing around, and he's like, I'm on the ship, so look that way for a second while I stab you in the face. And it's just like, okay, that's cool. I get it. And I know it's empowering to the end user, but it did seem, are the combat issues in Assassin's Creed something that still keeps everybody back, or do you guys still enjoy them for what they're worth?
I think it's something that, because it's become a yearly thing, it holds it back more. Mm-hmm. It just kind of feels like you end up doing the same thing, and you don't have to put as much thought into it.
Yeah.
And I know even on Assassin's Creed 2, it was strange to me that there was depth in there if you wanted to explore it.
Yeah.
But it ultimately felt like it didn't matter.
Right.
And so it would be great if these other types of weapons and things gave you different stances and made you really feel like you had an advantage over a certain type of enemy or a group of enemies and things like that. But
right.
it like you said, it still kind of feels like it's better if I just wait to counterattack.
Yeah. Exactly. What about you guys on the Assassin's Creed franchise? Anybody here particularly excited for the naval combat inclusion in AC3 or just the game itself?
I haven't played any of them except for the first one, but when they revealed the naval stuff at E3, it looked pretty cool.
Being the master of the sea that you are.
Yeah. I'm a nautical god, but just shooting the bola shots and all that kind of stuff, it looks really cool. I think that 7 guys standing around while you beat one guy up is a problem that most video games and most movies and pretty much everything has, is like, why isn't this guy stabbing him in the back? Well, they all just politely wait. That happens in so many games and movies. It's almost kind of like you have to suspend your disbelief on that, Mm-hmm. I'd love to see a game where every NPC just rushed you at the same, or every enemy just rushed you at the same time, but I think gameplay-wise you'd be overwhelmed. So I don't know. Okay. The games have always looked interesting to me, so I think I maybe will try this one.
Any opinion, Chris?
About the naval stuff?
Yeah.
I'm curious. You say it's going to be like a big part of the game. I'm really curious if it's kind of like a game mechanic that's going to be like the tower defense that was in the previous one. And I haven't played the previous one, so I don't know how significant, or I mean to say like how much of the game it was so dependent on that particular.
Yeah.
I don't know if is it a mini game. Was it? I have no idea, but. However much of the game that tower defense took place, I want to know, is it going to be kind of carried over in the same mindset that the naval stuff is? And And as far as the combat goes, I mean, I always found, you just kind of do the same two things over and over until everybody's dead on the screen. And I guess that's just because they want to. I don't know. For me, the only reason I played the Assassin's Creed games was, the thrill of some element of stealth and the story.
Yeah,
That's
the story.
That's what keeps me pushing forward. So I mean, I don't really complain if it's too easy because I'm really just trying to reach the end.
And they have those elements there, and this is gonna. And they took a chance again, like just like the Treyarch guys. I mean, with this setting and everything is pretty cool. I mean, obviously it's been probably planned for a while, but I mean, I think a lot of AC fans are looking forward to. Do you have an opinion on Assassin's Creed, Rich?
Yes.
What is it?
I'm anticipating Assassin's Creed 3. I think the naval stuff, I think that what they're doing with the naval, fighting on the sea, I think it's interesting. But like Chris said, is that just a novelty, or is it going to be, like a serious part of the game to where you're going to have to fight through this, or is it, is it optional? Like that's what I'm curious about. But I mean, yeah, but story wise, that's my big thing. Story wise, Assassin's Creed, and just like God of War, I want to be immersed in the story. It's like I want to be immersed in the story, and I want the gameplay to be solid. And it's like the Assassin's Creed. Like I played all the way through the first one. I played some of the second one. The combat, it looks like they changed it up a little bit, but for the most part, it's the same, just like in the God of War series. And for those of you out there that follow the site and that have heard me speak before, everybody here knows that I am a huge God of War fan.
What?
But I played the God of War Ascension demo, both the multiplayer and the single player. And even before this, I've said it on Invisible Walls before, I'm not anticipating God of War Ascension.
But Rich, you can kick guys. There's a button now. We can just kick a guy to death. Just kick.
Just hit the kick.
Yeah, but I mean, Kratos, when, playing the first God of War, I loved it. Playing the second God of War, I loved it. Playing the third one, I thought they should have closed it out. Zeus is dead. Olympus is gone.
Spoiler.
Yeah, yeah.
God of War 3. I mean, come on. It's old news now. Zeus is dead. Zeus is Olympus. Olympus is gone. There's no one left.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel that, like...
There's money left on the table for Sony.
Yeah, but I mean, again, with going back to Assassin's Creed, just comparing it with the God of War series, it seems like they're trying to innovate the combat, but yet you can still default back to just the normal kick-ass stuff.
And I think, too, the points about Assassin's Creed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They want to keep the mechanics the same, do some of the things that are the same, change the setting, mix it up, and capitalize on the fact that, a new game is going to mean a lot of new hype. And I think they are doing, their justice to the franchise with the setting and whatnot. And the inclusion of naval combat was a huge risk. I think from what I saw, it seems like it's a worthwhile addition to the game, considering the story and all those elements. That if it's about immersing you into the Revolutionary War and seeing Boston and New York and all these things that happened, it would have been kind of awkward to not have that in there because it was such a huge part of the outcome of that. And so you get to play that, and it is ultimately pretty cool. So we're going to close this out pretty soon, but I did want to just touch on a couple of things. I did first takes on Deadpool and Walking Dead video games, which I won't get into here, but if you want to know some opinions on those, you could watch those on Game Trailers. The new Dead Island Riptide game, we did a presentation on that. Yeah, I know I can't talk about it. I'm just letting everybody know that at the end of the month, we'll be talking about it more, but we did see it here at Gamescom. But Riptide obviously is the title's out there, right? The new title is out there?
I don't know.
The new Dead Island is out there, so you can just censor that maybe. I don't know. So anyway, our editor will take note of the title. Rome 2 Total War, I got a presentation on that and did an interview with them about the game. And obviously, those guys know what they're doing when it comes to strategy games. And anybody who's a huge fan of the Total War series should definitely be looking forward to Rome 2. They're putting a lot into the game in terms of scope. On both sides of the spectrum, what they told us about, these huge wars, but then you can micromanage and go down to the single soldier's perspective. Things like facial animations and just telling the personal story of each individual soldier is a big part of their gameplay in this huge environment. Coming off of Shogun, they said that was more like ballet, where the moves are orchestrated and whatnot. And this is more about that dark side of war that is really gritty and hardcore. So fans will definitely, apparently they've been requesting it for a while, and so now they're going to get it. But Last thing I want to talk about, we'll go around the horn and talk about this, is the reveal of Capcom's new IP, Remember Me. This was the talk of the show early on. It's always awesome to see a brand new IP. For those who aren't familiar with what they showed, it was basically a trailer breaking down the character, the setting, which is Paris, and the opportunity for these interesting mechanics set within this universe where the main character basically infiltrates people's minds, right, to alter their memories. So you were there at the Capcom press conference when they debuted this trailer, Daniel. What did you think of the game?
Well, it wasn't just the trailer. They also had 2 gameplay demos as well. But it was interesting because it did feel like, as the guys were saying on the Back Home episode of Invisible Walls, it feels like a mix of a lot of different games.
Yeah.
It feels like there's kind of Assassin's Creed / Hitman vibe to it. It feels like some Uncharted vibe to it, where it's like you're doing these ridiculous, like you're having to climb over stuff, but there's a helicopter shooting machine guns at you.
Yeah.
But I like the way that they're implementing this stealing of memories idea, because it's like, oh, okay, I need a key, but in order to get the key, like I have to like get my way onto that helicopter and like steal it out of that guy's memory, and I need to find out what my target is. Well, I have to find somebody that knows where his office is and get that information out of it, and then sneak up on him, and then get into the memory. And then the memory situation, it looks like, my first impression was something like Ghost Trick. You're like, you have this puzzle and you have to manipulate it in a way that achieves your result, and it's easy to think that there's just a right way to do it. But they showed a lot of different things that you can interact with in that environment. So I'm curious, in the demo they showed, how many outcomes you could have had other than the very obvious, take the safety off the gun.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it seems like an interesting concept that introduces a lot of gameplay possibilities, in terms of what the story could hold. Rich, you were also there at the Capcom presentation with the trailer and the demo. What did you think?
I thought the remix mechanic was very interesting, because when they failed the first time through, and then they rewinded it, and then they went back and then removed the safety off the gun, and I thought that was brilliant. I'm just like, okay, so it's not just linear, like, okay, click this, click that, no, go pick that up, okay, you're through it. You can actually fail, but then the question, if you fail, is, does the story still advance? Like, can you fail and then it's like, okay, you failed this objective in this part of the memory remix, so does the story continue, or is it like game over, you have to start over again and do it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
because I wonder if it changes up. Yeah,
this target in particular was a very, like, you have to assassinate him in a way that doesn't look like an assassination. Right. But yeah, if you had a different type of objective, right, that could open up some different aspects. So
it's a compelling concept in order to think about what they could do with the gameplay. But one of the things that fascinates me when you're creating a new IP is that it's basically, you've got a blank canvas. And Ian, I was curious about your thoughts, as you edited this, you got it up right away. The look of the game is pretty interesting. They're going for this cyberpunk type of vibe. What did you think about the way that they implemented the character? They said they wanted the female character. They told me in the interview because they feel it was more relatable to this this concept of living in this information age where we share a lot of information and there's sensitivity to it, but yet we kind of broadcast things out there as well. And they thought that a female protagonist would be more, relatable in the sense that, that sensation of having this sensitivity to things, but also, getting in there and kind of reclaiming what is rightfully yours. So what did you think of the look, though? Not only just the main character, but also the art style and the setting.
My initial impression is that Blade Runner is a very good movie.
Yes, it is. It has inspired a lot.
I'm like, Blade Runner is really good.
Yeah.
And then my second thought was, whatever happened to Prey 2?
Mm-hmm.
This looks kind of like Prey 2 with a girl.
Yeah.
And then I, looked at the mechanics a little more, and I was like, yeah, it could be really interesting. And I mean, if they're telling the truth, like if that's legitimate about having the female character for that reason and not just to try to get money, I think that's cool. I think it's neat that they're thinking about it in that way, and that like the mechanic is actually inspiring maybe something in the story and the character and stuff like that. And I think games could use more of that, like having the mechanic tied in with...
And boobs. They could use more boobs.
Well, right. I think games have plenty of boobs.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they have a lot of...
Joking.
They could have more. God of War. That's what we have God of War for, right?
God of
Gratuitous
War. Boobs.
nudity. But anyway, no. Remember Me looks cool,
It does.
but I want to go watch Blade Runner.
Nice.
That's what it makes me
It
wanna
inspired
do.
you to watch Blade Runner. Chris,
Yeah.
you saw it as well. What did you think of the presentation?
I did not see much of it, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
I actually probably saw it the least out of everybody here.
Oh, did you?
But hearing you guys talk about it, I will say,
Sounds pretty neat, right?
Cyberpunk game?
Yeah.
Yes, awesome.
Check.
Freaking, you're comparing it to Hitman and Assassin's Creed. Obviously some stealth. There's some stealth to that then.
Yeah.
And some openness. Count me in. Like that's totally right up my alley. So I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is that the title reminds me of Dear Esther,
Dear Esther.
because the lyrics of one of the soundtrack songs is "Remember Me."
Nice.
Over and over. That's a good game.
And of course, I can't help but be reminded of Metroid.
Metroid.
Other Ham.
Nice.
Honestly, while we were at the press conference watching that, just after it was over, the first thing that came to my mind was Public Security Section 9, Ghost in the Shell, Major Kusanagi.
I think you speak for all of us on that. I truly do. I know. Well, hopefully you knew what he was talking about. I think that they delivered an awesome presentation that at least was intriguing. So anyway, the bottom line is I think that game looks like they're onto something perhaps that might be memorable in the long term. We don't know. But I think that's basically it, guys. I hope that our session here of Invisible Walls has been memorable for you. I know our trip to Germany has been awesome. It's been filled with a lot of work. And also the opportunity to see some great new games. And Tokyo Game Show is coming up next. Well, PAX is next, and then Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah.
But
Busy.
it's been a busy month. But for Chris, Ian, DB, and Rich, I'm Daniel Kaiser for this kind of on-the-fly edition of Invisible Walls. We hope you've enjoyed it. So we'll see you next time here on GameTrailers.com. Everybody say peace. Cheers. Bye. How do you say peace in German?
I don't know. Choose to say goodbye.
Tschüss.